All right, so let's just like talk about DSG for a second, just because I know that I'm gonna get a lot of questions about it. So I didn't stream it, but I did watch it, and obviously it's a little sad to see. I think things really went wrong for their team at some point, like throughout all these roster changes. I think at one point they had something special, and then it obviously just like completely fell apart, right? You can see that they fell 0-2 to OR Esports, and Mad Lions games they also fell 2-0. But going into this, this was funny. I was watching this and I saw they picked the Reyna Jet Brim, and I was like, what in the f are these guys cooking? Apparently it's the bleed comp, but man, like both of these Pearl games I watched DSG play, both this game and the next one, which was against Mad Lions, were some of the most ridiculously disappointing games I've spectated. I mean, they just lost so many retakes and like man up scenarios where they just didn't play off of each other at all. Their ability to communicate on the fly seemed almost non-existent. Like it seemed like no one was saying an idea in these games that I watched. Like no one was like, all right, let's peek on 3, 1, 2, 3, peek. It was just like peek, peek, peek. And then like the guy would just peek. And then the next guy would try to trade. And then the third guy would just be like sitting in a corner. Or I would watch, I think this game on Ascent, and bro, some of these rounds, I was just like, what in the are these guys doing? There was a round where they were playing like double hell on a site, and one of them just got literally Viper Molly to death. Like, didn't even peek. Just tanked the Viper Molly till they died. And then left the other player in hell. And the other player in hell is too scared to peek too. They could have just 3-2-1 peeked at any time and won that round. But like, there's just there was never any ideas in the late round. There was just never. It didn't exist. And I don't know what happened, because there was a point where this team was good. Like, you can see, like, there was a point where they were good. They made playoffs. They made playoffs in Split 1, the midseason face-off, right? Like, it was these back-to-back games against M80, like, two in like 1 week. Is that what it was? It was like, no, they had a couple weeks between them. But bro, like, what happened to this team? You can see back here, they were actually beating these teams that they lost to. And this was when they had Ziff and Steel. And yeah, it sucks. It really sucks to see. When Toast came to me and said he was making this team, I definitely let him know my thoughts. And I helped him as far as like, I gave him my thoughts on a lot of free agents in the scene. I let him know like, hey, this is a lot of money, and some of the bigger players are going to cost more than what I know your budget is. And honestly, the juice might not be worth the squeeze here for you. But he was very gung-ho about it, which I was obviously always very grateful for as someone like in the scene, like someone willing to support the scene like that and become a stakeholder, which is crazy, right? That he was willing to do that. With all that said, I knew that because he wanted to pay me and like do all this stuff, and I was like, nah, dude, like I don't want to get paid for this. I don't know if this is something that will work. I don't know, like it's just, you know, it's such a risk that I don't like getting paid for things that I'm uncertain in, right? And it was just like I just kind of did it to be good to someone in the scene that I respected. I talked a lot with him about his like intentions with the project, and his only goal initially was to make it into challengers. Like, this team came from the open qualifier, guys. Like, they came out of nowhere. That was crazy that they just like actually did it. They busted through the open qualifier. And initially when I talked to Toast, I don't even think his goal was, I think I even said, I was like, dude, you don't even understand, Toast. Like, there's a lot of teams right now in Valorant, especially because of this franchising thing that's about to come down. And it is very hard to pick winners right now because all these teams are like new at the time. They, you know, like players that were previously pros on top level teams were now like floating around in challengers. And I knew that, you know, there were a lot of these like big name players like G2, like the guard, like M80. Like TSM was building like a giga roster. I heard rumors at the time of like other orgs coming into challengers and wanting to get a team. And I was like, you're going to be competing against some big money and some big names. And it's a scary proposition. But he was super optimistic and he did everything he needed to do for this team to be successful. And I think it sucks to say this as like an ex-player, but I truly feel like the players slightly let him down here. Not like an individual player or performance or anything like that, but just not sticking it through, you know, like quitting on the team kind of thing. Or maybe like there was like, I don't know, just not trying to work things out when they were actually successful in this time frame. You know, like in this time frame, there was clearly some kind of bad stuff happening behind the scenes, which caused some roster changes, and then things spiraled out of control. That really sucks to see. I hope Toast comes back into this scene. I guess the one thing that he can look at as a positive from this whole experience is that there's like a long off season now, and he has a team that he technically doesn't have to keep paying. And when Challengers rolls around next time, he can pick up a new team. You know, there's going to be crazy free agents coming from VCT. I don't know if it's a real possibility he doesn't return, but it sucked to see. Honestly, it really sucked to see. I was watching that stream where he was at Tarek's place, and I was like, this is Sag. It's big Sag. When Moist was signed as Breakthrough, they weren't necessarily a successful team. They were actually like probably less successful than DSG at that exact moment. What the Moist Boys have done is honestly crazy. Like that's what's so crazy about all of this is like now Moist looks like a real S tier team. But I could have said the same thing about DSG back then. I could have said the same exact thing. Because at the time, there was like 3 free agent teams. There's like pseudo free agent teams. It was like DSG, Breakthrough, and Turtle Shrew. And there was a lot of talks from a lot of different orgs that were coming to me asking for advice on like who to pick up and where to go and what to do. And I mean, truthfully, it was just kind of like a crapshoot. I would have a little bit more faith if I was coaching the team, but I don't know how that's going to play. I don't know how the coaches are going to be. I don't know what their practice schedule is going to be. I don't know what the buy-in from the players are going to be. When I built 100 Thieves with the boys, like it was a totally different environment. I had hours and hours and hours of phone calls across the entire scene to find the right players and the right fits. It wasn't as easy as just, you know, buying a pre-existing team. It's like we built that team from scratch, and then we had to work our ass off nonstop for like weeks and weeks. So Ye, after the game, tweeted, "I've never been so depressed, I think, in my entire life. The mistakes that are happening on this team are things in which I'm 99% sure ranked players could do better. And it's actually pathetic that we are quote unquote salaried professionals. I'm donating my last paycheck to charity since I don't deserve it." And like that just hit me in the feels, man. Like, cause I've felt that way before, where I felt like an imposter. Like I had like an imposter syndrome, like big imposter syndrome in my career. And it just sucks that like he joined the team that in hindsight never stood a chance. Like they never stood a chance, right? The losses probably took its toll on him throughout this entire time frame. I mean, that would take their toll on anyone. There's losses that teams do not recover from in esports. They don't have, a lot of the times these teams don't have the infrastructure that like traditional sports teams have. They don't have the experiences in real life to communicate through these issues. You got to remember, a lot of these players are gamers that are a little bit socially weird, myself included, and they're young. They're very young. So when reality doesn't align with their expectations and a little bit of quit comes into them, you can see like what happened. So I feel so bad for Ye because I don't think he played that bad. I watched all of these Challengers games. I've been co-streaming them. Like I've been on the Knights podcast talking about these games. Like I'm very familiar with the Challenger scene right now, and it's terrible to see like all of, not just Ye obviously, but Ye being, you know, the biggest brand and most influential person on this team. It fucking sucks. It sucks to see that happen. Do I think he meant to throw shade at his teammates? No, I don't think he meant to throw shade at his teammates. He's just saying what everyone's thinking. He's literally addressing the elephant in the room with this tweet, right? Like, we're all thinking it. We're all thinking it. Honestly, this is what we would want him to say. As like the GOAT in our scene, this is what we'd want him to say. So I'm not going to sit here and crucify him for his language in this tweet. I know what it's like when you lose a game that you put everything on the line for. You respect the fuck out of your org owner, and you know they're doing everything they can. You want to do everything you can, and then you lose. And with that loss, you realize like, well, shit, like my 4 teammates no longer have jobs now. Like my team owner might not even have a team next year. So it's like, fuck. That's pretty much my thoughts on it. I hope Toast comes back. I hope he can find some sponsors that can cover this. Because we all know like Toast doesn't necessarily need the team, right? Like Toast doesn't need Disguised as a team. He has Disguised as a team as a new way to create content. He sees he can like pivot into the future in a certain way, and he's passionate about it. Like he likes it. He likes the whole process. It's probably very exciting and fun to him. But there's a point where like the risk reward doesn't align, and I just hope he can like, he's been very vocal about it, right? He's been so vocal about all of his struggles and the things that are actually problems in this industry. And I hope sponsors see that and they can help him out, you know? Because that kind of transparency is very uncommon.